Good morning, loved ones. I am here live in my basement where I have my small office and my space to work in. You might hear the washing machine rolling in the background, or I think it's the dryer. Let me give you a little virtual tour of what I'm looking at down here. Trying to see how do you reverse this camera. No, that's not it. I just took a picture. All right. But here are my doggies in the background. There's Molly. I think that's Chloe there. That little dark spot right there is Molly. They're just sitting there on the sofa on a blanket trying to keep warm. Bunch of lazies. All they do is sleep all day. This is my desk. Behind me, you see my hot mess of books I was studying yesterday. I have to write a paper today and also finish preparing this Sunday's message. But this is my little nest, my little spot to come downstairs and have some quiet and be able to study and to prepare things and sometimes just to crush a nap. But either way, here we are, and good morning. I have my life book here, and I am on page 64. No, that's not true. I was looking ahead to Sunday. I am on page 62, and today we'll be talking about, or we'll be reading, the Sadducees ask about the resurrection. So it reads as follows. The Sadducees came to him, who say that there is no resurrection, and they asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife, but leaves no child, the man must take the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. There were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, and when he died, left no offspring. The second took her, and he died, left no offspring. The third likewise, and the 7 left no offspring. Last of all, the woman also died. In the resurrection, when they rise again, whose wife will she be? For the 7 had her as wife. Jesus said to them, Is this not the reason you are wrong? Because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as far as the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the passage about the bush, how God spoke to him, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living. You are quite wrong. So just picture these Sadducees, who it says very clear from the beginning, who say there is no resurrection. So here they are questioning Jesus about the resurrection, but they themselves don't believe it. They just want to see what he would say about the resurrection. The Sadducees, from what I've read, they held to the first 5 books of the Old Testament, but they didn't believe in miracles, and especially the resurrection, which is strange because we do read about plenty of miracles in the Pentateuch, or those first 5 books of the Bible. So just imagine these men asking this question and Jesus telling them, Is this not the reason you are wrong? Because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God. It could be that Jesus was telling them, you don't know the first 5 books of the Bible, because he does quote Moses, and that's what he's talking about. But it could be that he says you don't know the Scriptures, you don't know all of what Jesus, accepts as Old Testament, as the Bible. And he says, nor the power of God. that God is able to raise someone from the dead. I mean, come on. If he was able to create them in the first place, of course he could raise them from the dead. But here's the question, and it's a strange one. They said if a man marries a woman and he dies, his brother has a responsibility to keep the family name going, or the family line going. And he goes on, if his brother dies and there's no children, then the next one up to 7. And then there's no children and the wife dies. Now in the resurrection, whose wife will this woman be? JB, who's the self-proclaimed science geek, he comments on the side there, that is some weird stuff right there. And it is some weird stuff. But if you read the Old Testament, there is something written in there. And God's law is very particular, especially when he's dividing out the land and who gets what. There were 12 different tribes, and they went out and they conquered lands, and God gave them those lands. God promised them those lands, not just for that time, but forever. Forever they would have those lands. So God's promises are never taken back. And even to this day, whatever land he promised each one of those tribes, that land is theirs. So they will be in that land in the resurrection, in the end. Even, but that's another lesson altogether. So the land was important because if you owned it, and then you passed away, and your family didn't continue having that land, then you would forfeit it, and someone else would get it. So it was important that that land stayed in the family and that your name continued on. But a few things there. I remember when I was a young man in my 20s, sitting at home. The girls were small, and it was super late, and I couldn't sleep. I think I had a toothache, if I remember correctly. And I started watching this movie called 7 Wives for 7 Brothers. And it was a really funny movie, really old. It must have been like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. I just couldn't sleep because of the toothache. And I remember the movie being really long, and I started to nod off, and eventually I turned it off and went to sleep, and I never finished watching the movie. But anyway, maybe one day I'll look it up now that we have all these online options and we can find things pretty quickly. But back in a serious note, Jesus tells them, you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God, for when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven. Now think about the angels in heaven. They've existed since God created them at the beginning, and some rebelled against God, and some even believe that angels took on wives and have children. It's a passage that's somewhat, for some they say it's clear, for some they say it's obscure, but either way, but the 2/3 of the angels stayed in the very presence of God, and they're satisfied, they're content, they're happy. So the idea here is that even when a person dies, they don't stop existing. They're not asleep in the ground. They are alive. They are in the very presence of God, or in a place waiting for eternal punishment. But either way, a person is conscious. The person is alive. A person is knows and is aware of where they are at. It says, as for the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the passage about the book, how God spoke about the bush, how God spoke to him saying, I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. You are quite wrong. So I remember reading this so many times, and when someone explained it to me, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. He says, I am the God of Abraham. He's not saying I was the God of Abraham, then he died, and I was the God of Isaac, and he died, and I was the God of Jacob, and he died. But he said very clearly, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So he is not God of the dead, but of the living. All people continue to exist consciously forever. And at the resurrection is when we will receive those who have trusted that Jesus Christ died to pay for their sin and was raised from the dead, so that we would be justified and that one day we would be glorified. He promised us new bodies. I will no longer be short. No, I don't know what that body is going to look like. We do have some idea because Jesus, when he came back from the dead, when he was raised from the dead, he was in a body similar to ours, but also different than ours, giving us an idea of what it's going to be like. And he appeared in rooms. It seems like he went, I don't know if he walked through walls or how that all worked out, but it is going to be something, and it will be forever. So we look forward to that day. I hope you guys are doing well. I look forward to seeing some of you on Sunday. A handful, very, very few of us, just who needs to be there, will get together, and we will be going live for Bible study at 10:30 Sunday morning for you students. And for the regular service at 9 o'clock, we'll be in the sanctuary, and Dr. Green, our pastor, will be delivering the message at 9 o'clock. And at 10:30, there's also going to be live worship. Pastor Tina will be there with a small worship team, and the camera crew, and the audio people. And we will have service there, and we will broadcast it live through Periscope. If you need the link, go back to Facebook. The link is there, or text me. As far as the Bible study for students, it will be just going Facebook Live. So look on ESM, our group for Facebook, and we will go live from there. And don't forget, this Tuesday, we are going to go live as well, and I have a special gift in mind. We're going to play a game, and that will be the prize. So if you are on, please tell your friends, tell the ones that are the other students who usually gather with us, and maybe for some odd reason they never heard that we have a website, and that we do meet virtually online, and that we are going to go live. Let them know. I've had a few friend requests of people. It looks like they just made new Facebook, so I'm excited about that, and I look forward to being connected with you in that way on Tuesday. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a great day, and God bless you real good.